With this, we quickly move on to our next technical session. This session is Social Procurement, Pathways to Resilient and Sustainable Agri-Value Chains, is co-curated in partnership with SAP India. Please bear with us while we get the stage ready for this next session. Please kindly remain seated. May I request you all to please kindly remain seated. This is not a break. It gives me great pleasure to welcome on stage the esteemed moderator and the panelists for this session. Please join me in welcoming the moderator, Ms. Sagarika Bose, Head of CSR, SAP India. Very warm welcome to you. And now may I invite on stage the esteemed panelists for this session. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Nitin Gupta, Senior Vice President, Olam Agri India Private Limited. And next I welcome Mr. Ritesh Pandey, Vice President, Tuber Division and Sustainability, Siddhi Vinayak Agri Processing Private Limited. We also welcome to this stage Mr. Prabhakar L, Executive Vice President for Social Investment, ITC Limited. A very warm welcome to all of you. I now hand it over to the moderator, Ms. Sagarika Bose. Please take it forward. May I also take the pleasure of inviting Mr. Shubhendu Das to please join us on stage. He's representing Access.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone and welcome to this session. I hope everyone, the previous session was invigorating because we definitely want all of you to be engaged, and we are going to try our best to ensure that the last 10 minutes or so are, we keep it free for questions because that's the only way this session is going to work. So again, good afternoon to you all and a very warm welcome to all my co-panelists. Thank you all for joining us. So today's session is going to be on social procurement. And social procurement, as many of you would know, is essentially going beyond the procurement of materials and or services to look and beyond the intrinsic value of what you're procuring to ensure that there is a larger ripple effect on society and on the planet through the services and the products that you're sort of bringing on board. This is something that, there are all kinds of names given to it. It's somewhere in the realm of sustainable sourcing. It's somewhere in the realm of diversification of sourcing. But core to this is essentially the kind of organization one is buying from. Does that organization place people and planet before profit? Really, that's the kind of organization one is looking to procure from. So, some of you may wonder what a tech company like SAP is doing on stage with these amazing panelists who are representing essentially the FMCG sector, the Agri FMCG sector. And it's a fair question to ask, what what is our role, what is our agenda. I'll take a minute to just talk about why we are invested in social procurement. So for SAP, working with social enterprises, impact businesses has been a core part of our CSR strategy for almost 15 years now. And working with them because essentially they're helping solve core societal and environmental challenges while being able to scale. It's now grown to a size that is bigger than the advertising industry, the apparel industry, and it's about $2 trillion in revenue for this industry annually. That's the kind of size, with about 10 million social enterprises globally. Of these, about 2 million are in India alone. So it's definitely industry to take cognizance of. And what we also found was that there is a large subsegment within this sector which has B2B products and services, which is essentially what we're going to talk about. And for SAP, because we help companies run the world better and run more efficiently, for us, and we also have one of the largest business networks in the world. Um, this number sounds sort of phenomenal every time I say it, but it's about $5.3 trillion worth of trade happens on SAP's platform. So our focus, along with our business, the CSR focus along with business focus, is how do we help divert a percentage of that, even 2, 3, 5% diverted to buying from social enterprises, is going to make a phenomenal difference on the ability of these social enterprises then to grow and scale, and for the customers who are buying from them to help them meet their ESG, SDG goals. Right, so that's where SAP comes from. I'm not going to take any much more time on social procurement itself, but I do want to kind of one of the things we want to do in this panel is really to break social procurement down a little. And today's focus is going to be entirely on buying from essentially the farm sector. So FPOs in particular, or collectives of any odd, form or shape or size. And when we were trying to look at this, we were in a conversation with Vipin and Shubhendu and Shudipto at Access, and we were, who's just walked into the room coincidentally, but we were talking about the need for us to break down and try and understand, while social procurement is great to do, why aren't more corporates doing it? Of course, my co-panelists here representing 3 amazing companies are doing it, but beyond that, that list is limited. How do we get more companies to do it? And we felt that it was important to bring in a little bit of data and insights and facts into it instead of just going by anecdotes. And that's how this conversation around doing a study on 500 FPOs to begin with that have been established for more than 5-10 years now, have been selling to corporates. What are their trends? How are they seeing growth? Are they seeing stagnation? What are their challenges? What are the opportunities? Demystifying that, we felt, would help us really understand both sides, both the supplier side as well as the buyer side, more deeply. And hence, I'm going to now invite Shubhendu, to share with us a few highlights from the study, which is still underway. This is not the final report, but over to you, Shubhendu. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagarika. In fact, when we discussed about this social procurement study, and coincidentally, we also work with a lot of FPOs and we are in touch with the segment in India who promotes FPOs, whether it is government or our development sector partners. So this is definitely a big pain point for all the partners that we speak to. And that's how this is an interesting study, and thanks to SAP for organizing this study. Actually, the insights would definitely bring lots of value to the industry both for the FPOs and for the buyers. So overall, the essence of the study is to assess the procurement system, uh, and what are the procurement system that the corporates are following. What is the current strength or opportunities for growth within the FPO ecosystem, within the procurement system. So assessing both ends, from the buyer side, from the supplier side. Then the trend analytics. So we are analyzing the trend of how it has grown. Like we only discussed, there are hardly 2, 3, 4, 5 names that come forward when we discuss about this. So what is the real case scenario? Uh, Whether other corporates are still engaged, that we are not able to know. So the study would take into account these details, and also capacity building. So maybe capacity building is not only needed at the FPC level. There might be also some requirement at the corporate level also, wherein how they get convinced. So this study may also, if we have some data-based backup, then the industry can also see, yes, what kind of preparedness, what kind of orientation we need to have for working with FPO. So this is the objective of that study. So while speaking on FPOs, which is currently one of the largest small scale farmer sector organized players that is being getting developed within the ecosystem. Government of India is promoting now a large program of 10,000 FPOs. Prior to that, there were lots of FPOs. So we have checked the data of MCA, Minister of Corporate Affairs, wherein the total number of FPOs that is being promoted till date, that is 44,348. And out of that, so this is an active database which shows what is the current outreach, how corporates can outreach. One FPO means 1,000 farmers or average 500 farmers. So growing similar crops, similar cropping pattern, having maybe some basic structure or getting ready to supply to corporates. So this becomes a cluster for the corporates for procurement. So among them, 20,000, 26,933 are active. They are compliant, means they are compliant with all the corporate requirements as per MCA rules and regulation. 14,982 are active but so they're active but they're not fully compliant. They're doing some sorts of business, but they have lots of scope for growth within them or improvement within their systems. Then active but non-compliant. So this is, if the FPC is non-compliant, at the long run, they would not be able to do some business. And then stricken off FPOs. So there are lots of FPOs, 1,000+ FPOs, which have been stricken off by the Minister of Corporate Affairs because of non-compliance, non-performance, non-reporting. So this is the overall ecosystem. I wanted to highlight this because this can become a large supply network for the corporates also. So coming to the study, what we have done, we have this preliminary findings of the study. Currently, the study is ongoing. So we thought we should be able to share some basic insights from this study, so that there is an understanding, and maybe another in 2 months, when we come out with this study, then we'll jointly see how we can uh, publish this study, how we can make it reach to the suppliers, the corporates, so that there is a larger impact on the ecosystem. So overall, as Sagarika was mentioning, for identifying 500 FPCs who are working with corporates, that itself was a difficult task. So for funneling 500 FPCs, what we have done to begin with, our number is also increasing. We have outreached a larger number of FPOs, but at least 1,558 FPCs we have touch based. From that 1,558, what we have seen, 181 FPOs, FPCs, power producer companies, are doing some sorts of transaction, maybe one or maybe two, or small volume, large volume. So that's the actual case. So maybe for 500 we have to scan 3,000 FPOs. Then only we can get that. However, what we did, We also saw one trend wherein one is direct association. So maybe ITC is procuring directly from FPOs, but ITC also procures through a large network of buyers. So if the, say suppose if the FPO knows that this product is for ITC and this supply requirements are as per the specifications of ITC, then also we thought let's consider. So there are lots of online platforms who are bulking and supplying to large corporates. And there is a understanding that yes, this is for this particular corporate. So if we have taken that into account, maybe we will filter it out still when the study is there. So we have found 521 APCs out of 1558 who are doing some sorts of transaction in terms of output linkages. And coming to the procurement trends, so we are comparing last 3 years data, because if you go much more older, go with much more older data, then there is no significance. The market has changed after COVID. There has been lots of changes in the market ecosystem. So we have thought that let's study these last 3 years, and what we have found out that almost 81% of the APCs in last year, and then 75% and 68% correspondingly, they have traded less than 1 metric ton. However, there is an outlier. Why I am saying, because in some cases when it is high value spices, maybe even 1 metric ton is a good volume to start. So all those data we are currently filtering out. It's even uh, very interesting outcomes that are coming to us gradually, different kinds of analytics that are coming. So this study is actually very interesting. Thank you for actually initiating this study. So what we have seen, more than 500 MT. So that is at least one respectable figure. 500 MT supplying to a corporate, we can say that that's a respectable figure. So we can see hardly 3%, 4%, and 5%. So this percentage is increasing, but there is marginal incremental, and more than 1,000, 2%, 1%, 3 years in last 3 years. So you can see the suppliers are there, the relationships have been established by uh, the FPCs and corporates. However, we have a large pool of number of FPCs supported by ITC, where there is a 360-degree involvement. That number is 1,000 and more. If we take that data, then that becomes an outlier, because we are trying to sample the normal market FPCs, which are not directly supported, but yes, they are struggling to work with the market ecosystem. So this is the real case scenario. This is too early to conclude here, because our data is getting updated. There are lots of data related sharing that is happening. So this is what we have found out, and this is the initial outcome. So if we study the behavior of association between FPCs and corporates, then Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and strangely Uttarakhand, maybe because of paddy procurement. So initially, though we had an idea of MP and Maharashtra, uh, that they would be in the forefront. So surprisingly, within the study, when Uttarakhand has come up, and then there are different categories of states. So Odisha, West Bengal, UP, Rajasthan, Punjab, they're rising. And I believe with the update of the data, we would be able to also get more insights into this, wherein this figure might also change. But this is the preliminary outcome. Key challenges that we have highlighted, or that has come out from the study, which definitely would be further scope of discussion. So FPOs, what corporates see the challenges, or FPOs see that they don't have these capabilities or facilities. Because of that, they are not able to deal with the corporate. So lack of raw material availability, so irregular supplies. Mostly FPOs are into seasonal supplies, because they cannot store a large volume. For that, they need financial linkages for storing in large volumes, and then lack of training and capacity building, which is in fact one of the uh, largest challenge that they are having. Understanding of the corporate's requirements. then storage and value addition infrastructure, market linkages, and there are differently other management related challenges. So from the FPO sides, these are the challenges where they are not able to get linked to the corporates. And from the corporate sides, it's challenging for corporates to reach out to uh, 15, 20 or 100 FPOs for say requiring a 5,000 empty crop. So for 5,000 empty, they might deal with speak to one dealer or one supplier and they can get that. So aggregation is a big challenge, grading and sorting. So the kind of required quality that the corporate requires. So we have seen many FPCs have installed cleaning and grading facility manual. And few of the buyers, they have said, even if you install cleaning and grading facility, then also we need to pass it through color sorting. So there is a gap between the kind of infrastructure that is there and what the market requires. Similarly, logistics is one of the biggest challenge. When the larger traders or the brokers of the companies, they buy, then they take care of all the logistics. Wherein it is difficult for the FPOs to arrange logistics, and corporates cannot send one or two truck for collecting it from the rural area. Financial management, because of lack of FPO capability, paying to each and every FPO is very difficult for the companies, and then risk management strategies because of these transactions. So these are the initial findings, and this I will take up later when we will discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. So I'll move to some questions to my panelists over here. I think all of you are, sort of have been in your fields. You understand the space really well. I don't think much of what Shohendu has said has really surprised you, right? Because you're dealing with this day in and day out. Especially Prabhakar, I mean, I think from ITC's perspective, given Ichapal, there's a huge legacy of probably a long history of social procurement that ITC has been leading. So maybe let's start with you. If you can share with us what this journey has been like, what have been the drivers, what have been the challenges along the way in social procurement for ITC. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagarika. If actually one were to talk of each of all, that would have taken a full day itself, actually. When I reflect back in terms of when we started eChopal almost 24 years, 25 years back, there was no taxonomy of social procurement, sustainability, nothing was there actually. And yet we started. And the reason we started was we realized three things, and which in a way defines sustainable sourcing today. We said, if you're really looking at scale, you cannot get scale if you not include the small and marginal farmers. Second, we said was, if you have to be competitive, you need to understand the entire value chain. Third, we said was, if you have to keep performing year after year after year, you have to have the ecosystem in place. And today when I look at sustainable sourcing, this is what it actually talks of. So what did we do differently when we started 20 years back? And the beauty is when you anchor any of these things on first principles, those first principles remain valid even 25 years later. And I would like to just touch upon 5 first principles. I think the first principle we said was, why should a small farmer believe in you? And especially when you go as a large corporate, the power dynamics come into play. And therefore our singular focus at that point of time was on getting the trust of the farmer or earning the trust of the farmer. A very simple example that I would give, I don't know how many of you in the audience can even visualize. I'm talking of 25 years back when you used to have the VSAT antennas, etc. And this would be kept in all the villages. And they were very, very costly at that point of time. In the normal course, we would have said we need to have a contract that this is the asset which is being given, etc. And in all the chopals that we did, there was no contract. And we said, what's the messaging you're giving? The moment you have contract, you're not believing the village ecosystem. So we said, we'll not have a contract. We trust the farmers. And that started the whole thing actually. The second thing that we said at that point of time was you can get as much benefit as possible from the e-chopal, but you're free to sell to anybody else. So there was no contractual obligation. And because there was no contractual obligation, again the trust parameter increased. So our constant endeavor has been to keep reinforcing that trust. So that's one parameter. The second parameter, and again, which is I think one of the challenges that Subhendu also mentioned, is how transparent are you? If you take a very, very close perspective of I will not disclose what's the quality that I want, what is the specification that I want, how will the farmer grow what you want actually? Some of us may have no, the moment if I tell I want this quality spec, my competitor will pick it up. But then how will the farmer produce it actually? And that's been something very, very deeply woven into the whole e-chopal journey, whether it's transparency of prices, transparency of quality, etc. The third element was really in terms of technology. You have to leverage technology. And here when I'm saying technology, it's not just IT technology. It could be farm technology, it could be warehouse technology, whatever it is. And we are now at the fourth, so e-chopal 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Today when you go back and see in the social media, it's not called as e-chopal 4.0, it's referred as ITC Mars, which is a totally digital ecosystem per se. But every stage, technology has been one of the key drivers to create transparency as well as connect with the dispersed people all over the different states. The fourth T that I would really want to sort of highlight here is, do you have a goal and objective of transforming the community in which you are operating? Because the farmer is not in isolation. Unless you take care of the community in which the farmer is residing or operating, and that also gives you the additional strength of community backing the farmer, farmer backing the community, and that ripple effect falling onto the company. So wherever we have done e-chopal, a lot of people only look at the e-chopal perspective, but along with e-chopal, we had a whole set of interventions which was related to environment, society, holistic development, etc. So that was the fourth T. The last T that I would say is you have to approach it from a triple bottom line approach. And which means you have to play the marathon. You can't be operating on a quarter se quarter mindset, because if you have to earn the trust of farmers, it might be even 3 years before you earn the trust of the farmers. And then for it to sort of flow into your whole thing. And whenever we engage with the farmers, even from that stage, I remember the focus was how can farmer adopt responsible agriculture? Again, those days we didn't have the names of regenerative agriculture and all that stuff, but something which will add value to the farmer, and the way he adds value, by default, it also takes care of the planet. That becomes extremely important. So those are the 5 T's which has been there right from inception and continues even now, and will be our tenet for going forward also.
Thank you so much for that, Prabhakar. I think a lot to think about in terms of, and fantastic framework that you shared with us of the 5 T's. I'll move to you, Ritesh, next. And I think a very different perspective. A lot of people in the room might be thinking that, for ITC, a legacy company, huge conglomerate, this is easy to do. You have the deep pockets to do it, right? But with SV Agro, yesterday when we were preparing, you mentioned that 25% of your procurement comes from FPOs. How have you managed to do that in your company? What has been the approach? And some of the challenges also, I think, because we need to be a little candid in this room. It's not all easy going, right? So yeah, if you can share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. And I think you say that ITC has a legacy, but just to mention that we both are inspired by the same person, Dr. Kurian. So the legacy started from there. But to build on what Prabhakaranji was saying, that technology is very key aspect to enable transparency. But transparency is just one thing. We believe that technology should be enabled to create more wealth. Right now, what FPOs, most of the FPOs are trying to do is that they're redistributing the wealth. There was a trader. Now that they are saying that you do not pour material with trader, you pour it with us. So what is happening ultimately, that 100 rupees which trader might be earning, that 100 rupees is redistributed amongst 100 farmers. No one is happy. But where FPOs can make difference, and that is our focus and approach of working with FPO, is how to create more wealth. And that can only happen when you solve certain problems. So for example, when you enable technology adoption at a lower level, which a trader is very much not interested to do, because a trader is sitting at his gaddi doing the same thing year on year and earning a lot of things, right? So why should he pay more effort to adopt newer varieties? So that is one of our approach, that we bring in new varieties, we bring in technology that create more value. One instance of that technology creating more new value is we have a variety called Charisma. Now, this is a variety which has a glycemic index of 52 to 60, meaning that a diabetic consumer can eat it. So we are able to get 300% premium from consumers. Now, if consumer is paying, now the size of pie is increasing. Now, if size of pie is increasing, everyone can benefit down the line. So we are able to pay to farmers to, saying that if the money goes directly to female account, we'll pay 15 or 50 paisa extra. Or if you do this regenerative practice like say drip irrigation, we'll pay you 1 rupees more. So we are able to create incentives in the sector. So our approach is how to create a new wealth through technology adoption. And B is, of course, collaboration. We have technology, good, but our technology is in our lab. We have to collaborate with a lot of FPOs, with a lot of FPO promoting agencies, supporting agencies like Access Development Services to quickly scale our solution amongst farmers. So that's been our approach. Talking about challenges, there are huge challenges. Last year, we developed a network of some 20 FPOs in Assam, mostly supported by Assam State Rural Livelihood Mission. But this year, the program ended. All the FPOs, CEO who were earlier drawing salary from the project is now no more with the FPO. So the entire system crashed, right? So we paid a lot of effort, money, spent a lot of our time, but now we have to rebuild it. But that's a part and parcel of game, and we are okay with it. We know there will be challenge, but at the end of it, we know that we'll be able to create new wealth, new through FPO, because FPOs are more amenable to change. They are able to take the change to the farmer level, which the trader is not able to. So yes, these have been our technology adoption, and collaboration is a key approach in our company to work with FPOs.
Thank you so much, Ritesh. I think I really like that idea of the fact that you've almost built it into the DNA of your company, right? How your business model itself has this as a core part of how you work. Um, Nitin, I'll move to you next. So, Olam being a global company, and for you, farmers are, you know, both your suppliers and your customers in many ways for some of your core business areas. So, in sort of Olam, how social procurement is sort of set up at Olam globally and in India. What are the drivers here, and what are, if you can all talk about a couple of the specific projects that you're working on in India as well. Thank you. You can take this.
Yeah, thank you, Sagrika. I think first of all, this social procurement is providing a very unique opportunity for companies like Olam to not only address the social and environmental concern, but to improve the livelihood of the farmers by building very resilient agri supply chains through sustainable agriculture practices. And in this regard, globally, Olam has set a target to be a net zero company by 2050. Olam has its own in-house sustainable program. If I have to talk about just one example, which is related to cocoa, just to give you an example. So, for example, cocoa, we are sourcing it from Ghana and IVC, which are contributing almost 70% of the total world's cocoa production. So, we are sourcing cocoa from there, bringing it to the port, then bringing it to the Singapore and London, where we have our own processing facilities. We are converting that cocoa into cocoa butter and cocoa milk, and then finally, let's say, bring into countries, consumption countries like India, and selling it to customers like Mondelez and Nestle, right? So what kind of carbon footprints are getting generated in this whole value chain? So one, Olam has started tracking that, and second, then by adopting the right kind of agriculture practices or sustainable agriculture practices, we are ensuring that how to reduce those carbon footprints. In fact, Olam being because largely we are a trading organization globally, that's our DNA. So we have plans to even set up a global carbon desk also, so as to start trading on those carbons which we are going to get it after giving a proper incentive to the farmers. So that's one part of it. Second, in India, we have decided to start with rice on some of the sustainable agriculture projects, because rice being a water guzzling crop, and as we all know, 4,000 to 5,000 liters of water gets consumed to produce 1 kg of rice. So that's where we decided that we'll start with rice. So this SRP, which is a sustainable rice platform, it was started in 2011, and it was started by United Nations and Agri, and Olam being one of the founder members of that. So we started this program in Thailand. We did it for 40,000 hectares of area, and after tasting success over there, we decided to replicate the same in India. And today in India, we are doing now 2 sustainable programs in rice. So one is SRP, wherein we are working very closely with farmers in Punjab and Haryana for basmati rice. And this particular rice goes into European countries and the western world of Americas. So there the customers are very clear when it comes to eating rice. But they have a very stringent norms over there. So we are ensuring that the rice produced by farmers is in line with those customers' requirement. I think the biggest challenge in agri sector, which Shubhendu also mentioned, is about creating the right kind of market linkages. Today, what is happening is that most of the farmers in the country, they are operating in silo. So they have been adopting the same age-old practices. They are not very clear or concerned that what actually the consumer is actually looking for in the market today. And that's where that disconnect is there. And that's where we feel that as Olam, it is our prime responsibility to create those right kind of market linkages. So in this regard, we have collaborated not only with companies like IFC, organization like IFC and GIZ, who are not only our funding partners, but they are doing a water impact assessment for us. So in this project, we have reduced the water consumption by 10 to 15% by doing laser land labeling or drip irrigation or some of the other practices which we are adopting. Then we are working very closely with Bayer and Syngenta, who are the input providers to us. And we have designed a package and practices to make sure that whatever farmers are going to use that in their field, right? So the final output which is going to come will be in line with the customer's requirement. Then we are working with Ministry of Rural Development through NRLM and SRLM and ensuring that we are providing the right kind of training to the women farmers over there, and in turn they are providing to the farmers. So it's all about the capacity building over there. And lastly, but very importantly, we are working with a couple of agri-tech startups who through blockchain technology are providing us a platform wherein we are giving 100% traceability to our customers. So those customers are very clear. Once they will buy our product and scan the QR code, they will come to know that from which country, which district, which village this particular produce has come. Right. So what we are doing is, and apart from that, so one is on the water side, second is on the soil management part. So we are ensuring that after doing only soil management practices, we decide that what kind of varieties to be grown in a particular land. And then, of course, we are ensuring that no child labor should be there, because that's the first and foremost concern for us. So these are some of the practices which we have adopted in one SRP project. And if time permits, just one more project, which is about core, which is about carbon offsetting and reduced emissions. So that we are doing in Andhra Pradesh, MP, Haryana, and some parts of UP, wherein through agroforestry and crop rotation, we are ensuring that we want to reduce the carbon footprints. And that's typically for non-basmati rice. It is not for basmati rice. This is for non-basmati rice. Because we have customers who wanted those broken rice for distillery industry. And today, if you know about the EBP program in India, which is ethanol blending program in India, so all those companies, they are looking for those reduced carbon output for their own distilleries. And they want somebody like us who can partner with them, take care of the complete backend supply chain, and provide them those kind of outputs into that particular project. So these are the couple of projects which we are doing in Olam and trying to create the right kind of market linkages.
Thank you so much. Yeah, maybe I'll use this. Yeah. Shubhendu, coming to you, one, of course, the study is one part of it, but you have years of experience in this space working with FPOs. And because you've been working with FPOs, you've also been working with a lot of corporates like the ones we have here. Can you talk to us a little about the preparedness, really, that's required on both sides, on the buyer and the supplier side, to get into a partnership of this scale? Thanks.
So, on the preparedness, as rightly you said, sharing of information, that is one of the most critical one. Even if you don't have infrastructure or don't have any support, it has been seen that in case of many such pharma producer companies, if they are just made aware about the quality requirements and then subsequent risk of rejection, because say suppose if in case of potato you need certain varieties, and after sending a truck to 300 kilometers the APC comes to know that the quality is rejected, now they don't have any here to sell that product. So that is the biggest risk and biggest knowledge sharing requirement. If there is transparency in that, I think most of the problems are solved. Secondly, on the corporates, definitely we are seeing an increasing trend in the interest. Maybe that interest is yet to get transferred into a real business, but the interest is there at the top management level. However, because there is a target pressure, procurement pressure at the ground level, they have to stick to certain norms or volume. So the people at the ground level, they need to understand. So as there was also a discussion, if the KRA of the organization is there, that there have to be some percentage of procurement through directly from farmers or FPCs, that would definitely help. So percolation down the line. On the FPO side, that is the third one. So basic understanding and basic aggregation or basic cleaning reading. We're not saying that the APC have to do secondary processing. That of course needs lots of investment and technology. So to begin with, if they're able to do that, that's low cost, that will be very helpful.
Thank you for that, Shubhendu. I'm a little cognizant of time. I know I promised all of you some questions at the end, so we're going to cut short our discussion a little bit, and just one last round where I'll go around, but we'll answer in 1 minute. Yeah, so we'll try and keep our answers down to 1 minute. Prabhakar, I think yesterday we were talking about women in agri, right? What is the role that a large corporate can play here in enabling more women leading maybe these FPOs? I think you've done some work, so if you can shed a little light on that.
I think it starts with identifying that they can actually play a role or accepting that they can play a role. Especially in the Indian context, what happens is generally agriculture is perceived to be very male dominated. And so it's firstly a mindset issue. And I should confess that it was not something that we started very early. It's been a very recent phenomena. But once you know that this is a target that you need to look at, so we are already reaching about 3 lakh farmers. So while we've been working with these 3 lakh farmers, 2-3 quick learnings. One was, are you just reaching out? Or are you making them active participants? There are multiple decision points across the stage. How many of those decision points do they have a say? At least their ideas are being sought. So that you need to identify. Second, what's important is how do you help them collectivize? It could be collectivization through FPOs, or it could be other things like agribusiness centers, etc. And here again, what's important is our view is you need to have a twin track approach. Where necessary, you can have exclusive women, exclusive FPOs, women exclusive, farmer field schools, etc. But if you're looking at it from a sustainable long-term impact, we'll have to have them together along with the other gender actually participating. That's the second part. Third part, I think, is what we have realized is the moment you make them aware that they can play a role, you have to create visibility for them. And the more platforms get created for their visibility, they will have resistance from the male people as to who are you, why are you telling, etc. And most of these women have gone through that struggle. And that is where I think whether it's entity like Access, whoever is working with them on ground, they have to actually hold and not allow them to fall back actually. So those would be some quick learnings that we will have.
Thank you so much. To you, Ritesh, really, given that you've already come a long way, what is next for you in this space, in social procurement?
Of course, in India, there are certain pockets of FPO procurement which is doing good, as also highlighted by the study, which is Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. But we would like to build this network across India. There will be challenges, of course, we'll need a lot of support from across value chain actors, but we'll be able to do it. We understand that. The next thing that we are also trying to do is what Prabhakaranji was mentioning is that we say female farmer and male farmer. Farming is actually a household activity. So there's no female farmer, there's no male farmer. There's decision making, which he was rightly mentioning. Who is taking that decision? Even female farmer is taking that decision, right? So how to enhance decision making participation in value chain participation of female, farmers or female, colleagues of the household who is doing farmer, to be rightly said, is something that we'll be working on. In this regard, we are collaborating with Friends of Women World Banking and organizations like Access Development Services to identify women FPOs and strengthen them. One of the key tools that we have at our disposal is Potato Business School. The Potato Business School is a 3-day program where we teach the participant about the entire potato value chain, the nitty-gritties and the details of it, so that they can identify where and how they can participate. From being a laborer, what else they can do? At most of the time, they do not even know that, okay, they can store also, right? So yes, that is something that we are trying to build in the long term for social procurement.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Nitin, the question to you is really about risk. I think a lot of the concerns that large corporates typically have is, if we go with an FPO, there's a lot of risk involved. We might not, what if the harvest gets impacted? They will not be able to manage. Our, overall production will therefore get impacted. How do you handle it at Olam?
To be honest, as of now, we are working with only 6 FPOs, though our total farmer base with whom we are operating currently is more than 15,000 farmers. And we are on top line basis, we are on revenue basis, we are doing close to 50 CR on Indian rupee terms with the farmers. So on the risk side, I think the biggest risk which we have perceived, because most of the rice grown in the Tarai regions or where the moisture conditions are very high because of the water conditions over there. So it's all about the quality rejections. So that's the biggest and the foremost challenge which we are forcing. But we are very clear because we have umpteen markets to find the right customers for those rice. So if it is not the Western one, then there are other parts of the world who are taking care of that rice. And then in India also, because considering it's a large domestic consumption market, we have launched a couple of our own brands into domestic market, especially for basmati rice. So that's how we are trying to address that. But yes, moving forward, we are in discussion with IFC and GIZ to help us in building the right capabilities at the FPO levels. I think that's where we have to work upon to ensure that whatever is the end product which we are envisaging from those FPOs, we should get in line with the customer's expectation.
Thank you very much for that. It was very candid of you. Thanks. Shubhendu, the last question to you is really, what would your suggestion to corporates be, right? What is maybe the one thing that they can do to change how they are handling procurement, especially social procurement?
So I would say it in one point, that is transparency again, and payment within 24 to 48 hours if that is ensured. FPOs would definitely be encouraged because financing is another big challenge for them. And if they are able to get payment within 24 to 48 hours, then they can rotate the stock for at least a week. So that would be a big support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have just a little over for all, under 5 minutes for maybe two questions. So, yes, the lady in grey. Can we have a. If you could also identify yourself and keep it to a question rather than an observation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful discussion. My name is Maitreyi. I'm from Anudeep Foundation. I have a question. Whoever would like to answer this.
Sorry, your voice is not very audible. Is it on?
Yeah.
Huh.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So from the field observations, like there are so many organizations that are trying to bring forth women in FPOs and in MT also. Government is also pushing that, but the CEOs are generally males in those organizations. So I would specifically would like to ask Shivetu ji, what is your what would be the impact metrics for which we to measure women participation in these FPOs, and how would we measure that and ensure that that's really bringing forth women? Thank you.
Yeah. So we also work with lots of APOs. So it's a critical question whether the CEO should be women or not, or why more and more women are not coming, even as an organization. And not only Access, there are many organizations who are peers to us, who work in the same range. There is an interest that more and more women come in the management of the FPO. However, as on date, that is a big challenge, frankly speaking. And we have to go a mile extra to actually facilitate women uh, to get adjusted to those kind of challenging business environments in the rural area. So definitely that's a challenge. However, when we speak to large number of APOs and many corporates and other stakeholders, so if the FPO is of women, it is not necessary that it has, then there is no gender requirement for, say, suppose whether the CEO is a male or female. Definitely, if it's a female, that's great. But it's a business decision. So many of my corporate sector colleagues, they say every such additional mechanism or checks and balances you try to bring in an FPO, you are reducing its competitive advantage. So definitely, if women are able to come, that extra effort, we as an organization also do. Many CSR partners with whom we work, they also support us to go to that extra mile. And then when it comes to the business, then business is business.
Just sort of mention to that is, like we talk of any other DI initiative, it's not just about diversity of having number of women on the FPO or FPO board. It's about inclusivity. So unless by design inclusivity is not there, they'll just be there for numbers.
Just want to add one analogy that if train is going from north to south, and if you want the train to go from south to north, you do not just approve the train and you create such a long U-turn that people sitting in it do not understand it's a U-turn. So that U-turn is getting made by the industry, by the sector, by work that is being done. So it will take time, but we'll reach there.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Devranjan. I'm a partner at Satwa Consulting. This question is particularly to the business community. And this is not a question, but this is my own I think curious to know how the trend of social procurement is moving towards in future. So now with the UDR and the triple D norms coming in, CS triple D coming in, I think the entire industry is gearing up towards this responsible sourcing, particularly in certain commodities which is going for the export market. But simultaneously, the Indian regulations, I think through the BRSR also, I think the recent last week, I think the BRSR upgradation is talking about now scope 3. Now there is a clear trend that down the line, even the Indian companies also has to gear up for the responsible sourcing, social procurement or sustainability in the supply chain. I am just curious to know how the boardroom discussion is happening. Is the organizations are thinking towards putting significant level of investment, because when this presentation talks about 3 to 5% is a very major amount to the type of, I think, the scope present in terms of social procurement here. So what is the boardroom discussion happening right now? Is the top CEOs right now thinking that this is something, a business efficiency investment, this is like a philanthropic investment, how the future trend would look like?
Thank you. That's a very great question.
So I can say just a couple of things on that. So one thing I'll just quote about Olam only. So one thing our group CEO, Mr. Sunny Verghese, has made it very clear that the sole sustainability is not for corporate social responsibility. It has to be gel well with the business. And if any business is not having a sustainability angle, business does not have a right to survive and sustain in Olam. Right. So that's the clear cut first point decision taken by the board, that if your business is not having a sustainable angle, then it will cease to exist over a period of time. So that's one part. Second, on personal front, all I can say that I'm a father of two daughters. They are grown up daughters. Now the change which I'm clearly seeing, especially after COVID, and they are Gen Z, right? They see on the backside of the package first, and they see that uh, all the ingredients of it. They are very particular when it comes to eating habit, whether it is a safe, healthy, hygienic food or not, right? And all that's clearly showing that the trend is in that direction. And if the companies are not going to work in that direction, uh, they won't be able to sustain and scale up their business. So these two things will answer to your question to a larger extent. Rest I leave it to the rest of the panelists.
I think it's no longer a choice. Survival of a company is at stake from two dimensions. One of the key elements of sustainable sourcing is environment. So if I don't address my agriculture value chain practices, keeping the environment in mind, tomorrow that value chain may not exist. So that's one part of it. Second, as like you mentioned, pressure is coming from the consumers. Customers are demanding, consumers are demanding. So you have to gear up for that. And organizations which are geared up much in advance will have the first mover advantage. So corporates or boardrooms are looking at that part of it. The third part that boardrooms are looking at is there's clear value in it for the corporates. It's not that you're not capturing. Very often we just look at value from how much is the impact on the profit center per se. But what is not getting reflected very so easily is your costs are getting shaved, especially when you de-risk your business through a sustainable sourcing model. And therefore, what is important is in the boardroom discussion that's happening is what if or what if not scenarios. So, like last few years back, like the entire Rhine, this thing went dry. So the whole shipping lines got impacted. So boardrooms are asking, what will happen if we do not do this? Earlier, the boardroom discussions used to be, what is it that we need to do? So that's a big shift.
I think for SV Agri, sustainability is part and parcel of our business. Being agricultural company, we are, agriculture is changing faster than we think it is changing, primarily because of a climate distress we are in. So it's always so. So this year we went to our partner Agrico. We started talking about importing 2 new varieties. Now those 2 new varieties will hit market some 7 years after, right now. But we are anticipating that this climate is going to come, this market is going to get disrupted, and that's why we need those varieties. So of course, for us, everything that we do has a climate angle, be it the new varieties that we have, the food engineering efficiency that we are bringing in, the cold store efficiency and food loss that we are saving. All things are aligned with some of the sustainability goals.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, we'll have to conclude. We've run out of time, and I've been told by the organizers that we need to conclude. I just want to sort of end by saying I think this last question, and thank you for that, sir, was really useful to end, because I think it's clear that this is something that's moving from a good to do to a must do for corporates, right? And the way to go about it is to partner with a lot of the intermediaries who are in the space that are working with FPOs, because I think there is a lot of capability building. Let's face it, on the side of the suppliers that needs to be done. And but it is possible, it's doable. There are sort of all kinds of models that were shared with all of you. So I hope you're going back with ideas or at least food for thought. And thank you very much for being a patient audience. And a big thank you to all my panelists. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the esteemed moderator. Thank you to the esteemed panelists. And we would also like to present you a small token. as an appreciation and thanks. Our thanks to the moderator, Ms. Sagrika Bose. Thank you so much. Mr. Nitin Gupta, thank you for joining us for this session. Big thanks to Mr. Ritesh Pandey. Our thanks to Mr. Prabhakar L. And of course, our thanks to Mr. Shubhendu Das. Thank you for joining us at the last moment.
Thank you so much. One more.